$4,990 for a Toyota Land Cruiser that survived 487,000 brutal miles, while a used Corolla down the street lists at nearly 4 times that price. That's not an anomaly. It's a flashing sign pointing to a hidden world. The SUVs that never die under $5,000. In a market shattered by the 2008 financial crisis and $4 per gallon gas, overbuilt rigs became disposable overnight. But beneath today's sky-high prices and six-figure odometers lurks a forgotten category of vehicles engineered to outlast nearly everything on the road. Why do some of these impossible deals exist, and what's the market not telling you? The answer starts with a shock, and what follows could change how you see every used car lot in America. Scroll through any used car site right now, and you'll see it. A 2019 Corolla with 85,000 miles listed at $18,995, sometimes more, while a 487,000-mile Land Cruiser is sitting at $4,999, waiting for someone who actually understands what they're looking at. That's not a typo. The Corolla's barely broken in, but it's priced like it's made of gold. Meanwhile, the Land Cruiser has already circled the Earth nearly 20 times and still starts, shifts, and rolls down the highway with the kind of confidence you only get from Toyota's old-school engineering. The used car market is upside down. People are fighting over late-model sedans with average reliability, while the true survivors, the SUVs built to last through anything, are hiding in plain sight, often ignored because of a scary-looking odometer. But here's what makes this even more interesting. Those sky-high Corolla prices aren't a fluke. Since the 2008 crash, new car production never fully bounced back. Supply chain hiccups, chip shortages, and inflation have all pushed prices for basic transportation to record highs. The average price for a 3-year-old used car just hit $29,710, up more than 3% in a year, and that's for something you can't even take off pavement. But in the shadow of all that sticker shock, there's a parallel market, one where the numbers don't lie, and where the best deals are hiding right at the edge of what most buyers consider too many miles. That $4,999 Land Cruiser isn't some unicorn. It's the result of a perfect storm, a vehicle built for mining companies and Middle Eastern deserts, dumped on the American market during the SUV panic of 2008, and now overlooked because buyers have been trained to fear high mileage. Yet, the owner of that 487,000-mile beast will tell you it's the most reliable thing he's ever driven. He bought it for less than the sales tax on a new RAV4, changed the oil, and hasn't looked back. The disconnect is real. While everyone else is stretching their budgets for a used sedan with a warranty that's about to expire, you could be driving a machine designed to survive decades of abuse. The numbers don't just look good on paper. They're backed up by owner stories, live listings, and a market that still hasn't figured out how to price true durability. So, why do these impossible deals keep popping up? And what's the real reason a high-mileage SUV can be a smarter buy than a low-mileage compact? To answer that, you have to look past the odometer and start asking what these vehicles were actually built to do. In 2008, the bottom fell out of the SUV market almost overnight. Gasoline shot past $4 a gallon, and suddenly, the same full-size trucks and SUVs that had been the pride of American driveways were radioactive on dealer lots. New car sales dropped by nearly 40% in a single year, numbers Detroit hadn't seen since the early 1980s. For the automakers, it was a disaster. These companies had built their profits on big vehicles, raking in 15 to 20% margins on each SUV, while cars barely cleared 3%. When gas prices spiked, buyers ran for anything with a 4-cylinder engine, and the biggest, most expensive SUVs started stacking up unsold month after month. Dealers slashed prices just to keep the lights on. Trucks and SUVs that cost $40,000 new were suddenly worth less than half that with only a few years and a tank of gas between them and the showroom. Lease returns flooded the market. Banks, already nervous from the housing collapse, wouldn't touch high-mileage SUVs for loans, and buyers with average credit found themselves locked out. Nearly 2 million new cars had been bought with home equity money in 2007, but by 2008, that faucet was bone dry. The industry's annual capacity was 17 million vehicles, but sales crashed to just 10 million. Some manufacturers, especially those with heavy SUV lineups, were left with parking lots full of unsold inventory and no way out but to cut deals or cut jobs. The panic wasn't just about fuel economy, it was about survival. Automakers like SsangYong, who built almost nothing but big, thirsty SUVs, posted losses quarter after quarter, with sales plunging 63% in a single summer. Toyota and GM took their own hits, but the real story was in the used market. Suddenly, vehicles that had been engineered for mining companies and desert fleets, machines built to keep running in the worst conditions on Earth, were selling for pennies on the dollar. Oil prices eventually fell, but the damage was done. The depreciation cliff was so steep that SUVs dropped out of the new car market and landed squarely in the hands of anyone willing to risk a few extra dollars at the pump. That's how you get a Land Cruiser with 500,000 miles for under $5,000. The economic storm of 2008 didn't just flatten prices, it handed over-engineered commercial-grade trucks to regular buyers for the price of a used laptop. And while most people saw only the gas bill, a few recognized the opportunity. These weren't just cheap SUVs. They were the most reliable, overbuilt vehicles ever to hit American roads, available for a fraction of their original cost. The panic that sent buyers fleeing from big trucks is the same force that made legendary durability affordable, if you knew where to look. Today, that window is still open, barely. But the deals are hiding in plain sight for anyone willing to look past the pump and see what's really under the hood. See this era of SUV engineering? It's not nostalgia, it's science. Back in the 90s and early 2000s, companies like Toyota, Honda, and Jeep weren't designing for planned obsolescence or quarterly profits. They were chasing a different goal, vehicles that could run for decades, not just years. The secret wasn't magic. It was an obsession with mechanical simplicity and materials that outlast trends. Toyota's playbook, for example, was built on the idea that every component, every bolt, every gasket should survive the harshest conditions on Earth. That's why you'll find cast iron cylinder liners inside those aluminum blocks and timing chains instead of belts. Chains don't need to be swapped out every 90,000 miles. They're designed to last as long as the engine itself. But it goes deeper than that. The Toyota Way, codified in 2001, pushed engineers to prioritize long-term reliability over short-term savings. They'd build parts by hand, perfect them, then automate the process for mass production. If something didn't meet their standards, the whole assembly line could stop, sometimes thousands of times a week, until it was right. That's not a cost-cutting move. That's a commitment to quality most companies would never allow today. This philosophy didn't just shape Toyotas. The Jeep Cherokee XJ's 4.0-liter inline-six is another legend, built with a cast-iron block and a pushrod valvetrain that shrugs off abuse. Honda, meanwhile, stuck with naturally aspirated engines and simple automatics, skipping the fragile tech that plagues modern drivetrains. The result? SUVs from this era that keep running past 300,000 miles, often on original parts. When you see a high-mileage 4Runner or CR-V still humming along, you're looking at the legacy of an engineering mindset that put durability first, every time. Toyota's reputation for reliability isn't just marketing, it's backed up by hard numbers and real-world evidence, especially when you look at the 4Runner and its luxury twin, the Lexus GX 470. Here's what the data says. According to a massive IC Cars study, 26.8% of all 4Runners on the road make it past 250,000 miles. That's not just a little better than average, it's 3 times higher than the typical SUV. The GX 470, sharing the same bones and V8 power, regularly cracks 200,000 miles, with nearly 38% of them making it to that milestone. What sets these trucks apart? Start with the platform itself. Both the 4Runner and GX470 use a body-on-frame design, the same approach found in full-size pickups. Underneath, you'll find the 1GR-FEV6 or the Bulletproof 2 UZ-FEV8, both featuring aluminum blocks with cast iron cylinder liners, timing chains instead of belts, and forged internals. These engines aren't just tough on paper. Owners have documented 350,000-mile 4Runners still running original drivetrains. The timing chain means you're not budgeting for a $1,200 belt job every 90,000 miles, and the cast iron liners shrug off heat and wear that would sideline lesser motors. The GX470 is the sleeper in this story, a luxury SUV with heated leather, air suspension, and navigation, but underneath, it's a 4Runner in a tuxedo. Used prices have dropped into the $4,500 to $5,000 range for high-mileage examples, and they're not basket cases. One owner in Texas bought a 2006 GX470 with 240,000 miles for $4,700, drove it cross-country, and racked up another 30,000 miles in a year with nothing but oil changes and brake pads. Consumer Reports and Repair Pal both rate the GX470 and 4Runner among the lowest-cost SUVs to own long-term, with annual maintenance averaging $600, less than a new crossover's first-year depreciation. These trucks were built for abuse, towing, off-roading, family duty, you name it. They're still running because Toyota engineers obsessed over the details: thick frame rails, overbuilt transmissions, and simple electronics that don't freak out after 20 years. That's why you'll find used car lots in the South and Southwest filled with 4Runners and GX470s showing 300,000 miles and still commanding real money. For buyers who care more about what's under the hood than what's trending on Instagram, these are the SUVs that just refuse to die. The Jeep Cherokee XJ is more than just an American SUV. It's a legend that rewrote the rules for what a budget truck could survive. Launched in 1984 and running through 2001, the XJ was the first SUV to look and drive like a car, but outlast most pickup trucks. Under the hood, you'll find the 4.0-liter inline-six, an engine so tough that mechanics joke it'll run on 3 cylinders if you forget to change the oil for a year. This is old-school Detroit iron, a pushrod design, cast iron block, and enough low-end torque to haul a trailer or crawl through mud with the transmission barely breaking a sweat. Ask anyone who's owned one. Stories of XGs hitting 300,000 miles on original spark plugs aren't rare. There's a case out of New Jersey, a 97 Cherokee XJ, still on factory plugs at nearly 300,000 miles, with the owner swearing the only real maintenance was oil changes every 5,000 miles. Even the spark plugs look new when he finally checked. That's not a fluke. The XJ's simplicity is its secret weapon. No turbochargers, no fancy electronics, just a basic fuel injection system and a cooling system you can fix with a wrench from the glove box. While the Japanese were perfecting refinement, Jeep doubled down on grit. The XJ wasn't built for comfort. It was built to take a beating. The boxy frame, solid axles, and minimal electronics mean fewer things to break and less to worry about as the years rack up. Even rust, the XJ's one real enemy, can be managed if you shop in the right regions or stay on top of undercoating. For a generation of American families, off-roaders, and first-time buyers, the Cherokee XJ was the ultimate workhorse. Affordable, unstoppable, and proof that sometimes the simplest machines last the longest. That's why even today, you'll find these square-bodied survivors still commuting, wheeling, and outliving crossovers half their age. Family SUVs don't get much more practical or more reliable than the Honda Pilot. The 2006 model, for example, regularly shows up on best of lists for one reason: it just keeps going. A well-kept pilot can haul 8 people, swallow 87 cubic feet of cargo, and still fit in a parking spot outside the grocery store. The 3.5-liter V6 isn't just smooth. It's built for the long haul, with plenty of pilots racking up 300,000 miles or more without major drama. Insurance on a used Pilot? Often 60 to 70% less than a new SUV, and parts are everywhere. Real-world owners report annual maintenance costs hovering around $500, which is less than some new crossovers lose in value every single year. But if you need space for a baseball team and a trailer full of lawn gear, the Chevrolet Suburban is the American answer. There's a reason you'll find these parked outside schools, fire stations, and construction sites from Maine to Montana. The average Suburban can last 200,000 to 300,000 miles with basic upkeep, but some have gone much farther. A documented case in Texas reached 700,000 miles on just one transmission swap. The secret is simple: body-on-frame construction, a bulletproof small-block V8, and a transmission built to tow. J.D. Power gave the Suburban an 85 out of 100 for reliability. And it's not just a number. These trucks are still working hard all over the country. For families, fleets, and anyone who needs a rig that won't quit, these are the SUVs built to outlive your next 3 cell phones. Every year, more than 450,000 vehicles hit the road with rolled-back odometers, costing buyers over $1 billion. That's not just a few bad apples. That's one of the biggest property crimes in America. In the used SUV market, where high-mileage survivors are the smart buy, odometer fraud can turn a deal into a disaster. The average victim loses about $4,000, often wiping out any savings from buying used in the first place. And with digital dashboards, tampering takes minutes. There's no telltale scratch on the numbers anymore, just a computer hack and a clean-looking readout. But even if the mileage checks out, another threat lurks underneath. Rust doesn't care how good the engine sounds. In Salt Belt states, 15% of drivers have paid for rust repairs, and the damage racks up to $3 billion a year. Untreated underbodies corrode 3.6 times faster than those with proper protection, and body panels rot nearly 7 times as quickly. For body-on-frame SUVs, frame rust can mean a total loss. A replacement can cost $15,000, 3 times what you paid for the whole truck. Toyota's $3.4 billion frame settlement covered 1.5 million trucks and SUVs, some less than a decade old. Unibody SUVs aren't immune either. Mazda recalled nearly 49,000 Mazda 6s for subframe rust that could snap mounting bolts clean off. So before you get blinded by a shiny listing, remember, a spotless Carfax isn't enough. Always pull service records, inspect wear patterns, and get under the truck. Pay special attention to frame rails, suspension mounts, and brake lines. A cheap SUV with hidden rust or a fake odometer isn't a deal, it's a ticking time bomb. There's no secret handshake or magic additive that gets an SUV past 300,000 miles. It's mechanical sympathy, knowing how to treat a machine so it treats you right. Start with fluids. Transmission fluid isn't a lifetime fill, no matter what the sticker says. Change it every 30,000 to 50,000 miles and use the exact spec listed in the owner's manual. Same goes for coolant. Every 60,000 miles, swap it out and stick to the factory formula. Cheap out, and you risk gasket leaks or worse. Oil changes? Don't gamble. Stick to 5,000-mile intervals, use the right viscosity, and don't let it run low. High-mileage engines need their oil topped up and clean to keep seals healthy. For brakes, flush the fluid every 30,000 to 45,000 miles. Moisture ruins ABS pumps and rusts lines from the inside out. And when something feels off, a vibration, a new noise, don't wait it out. Fix small problems before they become wallet busters. The owners who see 400,000 miles aren't lucky. They're consistent. Treat your SUV like it's got to last forever, and it just might. That's the real immortality code. A single 4Runner listed for $4,999 with nearly 500,000 miles proved that durability can defy expectations. Over 26% of 4Runners on the road today have reached 250,000 miles, according to iSeeCars, while Suburbans and Cherokees have documented lifespans of 300,000 miles and beyond. The 2008 crisis, which saw new car sales drop 40% and gas prices hit $4 a gallon, pushed over-engineered SUVs into the bargain bin and rewrote what buyers could expect for $5,000. Yet, despite these high-mileage legends, over 450,000 odometer rollbacks occur each year, and the long-term impact of modern cost-cutting is still unknown. What remains clear from registration records and owner accounts is that the golden age of SUV engineering created a tier of vehicles capable of outlasting trends and even their own reputations. For those willing to follow the maintenance code and watch for hidden dangers, today's $5,000 SUV can still deliver on the promise of reliability once thought impossible.